Today we're tackling something monumental, a moment that's absolutely blown the WWE Universe's minds. Here's the bombshell, and trust me, it's a game-changer: the Shield is reborn. Roman Reigns returns with mysterious new allies to dismantle Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. You heard it right. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief himself, is back in WWE, and he's not alone. He's flanked by two enigmatic, hooded figures, and their first act? Laying waste to Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman in a scene ripped straight from a blockbuster movie. The crowd went wild, social media exploded, and the wrestling world is buzzing. Who are these new Shield members? Why now? And what's next for this revamped faction? We're about to dissect every single detail, every punch, every twist, every clue. This isn't just a return, it's a declaration of war. So, if you're ready to step into the chaos with us, hit that subscribe button, smash the bell, and let's go. This is Wrestling Juice, taking you ringside for one of the most insane moments in WWE history. Buckle up, because the Shield is back, and they're more dangerous than ever. Let's set the scene. Monday Night Raw, June 9, 2025. Live from Knoxville, Tennessee, the Thompson Bowling Arena is packed to the rafters. Over 20,000 screaming fans, chanting and waving signs, create an electric atmosphere. But no one, absolutely no one, knows what's about to unfold. In the ring stands Seth Rollins, the self-proclaimed visionary, mic in hand, basking in a chorus of boos and cheers. Beside him, Paul Heyman, the Wiseman, sports his signature sly grin. Rollins has been on an absolute tear recently, leading his new faction, the New Authority. With Heyman pulling the strings, they're gloating about a brutal beatdown from the previous week. Rollins is mid-promo, dripping with arrogance. Knoxville, let's be real, Rollins preaches, pacing the ring. There's no one left to stop me. Roman Reigns? Gone. The bloodline? Crumbled. I am the architect of this new era. And with Paul Heyman by my side, we are untouchable. The crowd boos, but a restless energy begins to build. Heyman nods, about to chime in, when, boom. The lights cut out. The arena plunges into darkness. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Then, it happens. That iconic sound hits: Sierra, Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield. The place erupts in screams, cheers, and absolute pandemonium. The camera swings to the ramp, and there he is, Roman Reigns, decked out in black tactical gear, that old Shield vest hugging his frame. The big dog is back. But he's not alone. Flanking him are two figures, both in black hoodies, their faces obscured by sleek, dark masks. The crowd leaps to its feet, chanting "Holy smoke," as Reigns and his crew march purposefully toward the ring. Rollins freezes, his mic dropping slightly. Heyman's grin vanishes, replaced by a look of pure panic. The trio doesn't hesitate. They hit the ring like a SWAT team. Reigns slides under the ropes, while the hooded figures vault over, moving with eerie coordination. Rollins tries to reason, stammering, "Roman, wait. We can talk." But it's too late. Reigns charges, lowering his shoulder and delivering a spear that echoes through the arena. Rollins folds like a lawn chair, crashing to the mat as the crowd loses its mind. Heyman bolts for the corner, but the hooded figures cut him off. One grabs his suit jacket, the other his arm, and they haul him back to the center. Heyman pleads, "Roman, I made you. You owe me." But Reigns isn't listening. He nods to his new partners, and they hoist Heyman up. The crowd knows what's coming and starts chanting, "One more time. One more time." In perfect sync, Reigns joins in, and they plant Heyman with a triple powerbomb that shakes the ring. The Wiseman is out cold, sprawled across the mat like a broken puppet. The segment closes with Reigns and the two mystery members standing tall, raising their fists in that classic Shield pose. Rollins is down. Heyman's a wreck. And the WWE Universe is in a frenzy, chanting, "This is awesome." As the show cuts to black, it's a moment of pure chaos, a statement that the Shield isn't just back, it's Reborn. The backstory, why this return hit so hard. To understand the full impact of this return, we have to rewind. The Shield, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose, debuted at Survivor Series 2012, crashing the main event and putting the entire WWE roster on notice. They were a force of nature, three hungry rookies on a mission to fight injustice. For 2 years, they dominated, racking up tag titles, engaging in epic brawls, and delivering that iconic triple powerbomb through tables. They were brothers, unbreakable, until June 2, 2014. That night on Raw, Rollins betrayed them. With a steel chair in hand, he smashed Reigns and Ambrose in the back, aligning himself with Triple H and the Authority. The Shield was dead, and that betrayal left scars that never fully healed. Reigns went on to become the Tribal Chief, a dominant champion with Paul Heyman as his counsel. Rollins became the Architect, a scheming mastermind. Ambrose left for AEW as Jon Moxley. The trio's paths diverged, but the underlying tension never faded. Fast forward to 2025. Reigns had been unstoppable, holding the undisputed WWE Universal Championship for over 1,300 days. Heyman was his rock, guiding him through wars with Cody Rhodes, The Rock, and more. But at WrestleMania 41, everything imploded. In a title match against Rollins, Heyman turned on Reigns, distracting him long enough for Rollins to hit the curb stomp and steal the gold. The Wisemen then joined forces with Rollins, forming the new Authority with bruisers like Braun Breaker and Dominic Mysterio. Reigns, humiliated, disappeared from WWE TV. Fans wondered, had the Tribal Chief been broken? Meanwhile, Rollins thrived with Heyman's brains and his own cunning. He ran roughshod over Raw, targeting anyone who dared challenge him. He openly mocked Reigns on air, calling him yesterday's news. But deep down, Rollins knew Reigns doesn't forget. That history, that 2014 betrayal, still burned. And on June 9, 2025, Reigns returned to settle the score, not as the Tribal Chief, but as the leader of a reborn Shield. This wasn't just revenge, it was a reclamation of his legacy. The million-dollar question, who's under those hoods? The WWE Universe is buzzing with theories, and we're diving into the most compelling ones. Option 1, returning legends. Could these be blasts from the past? One name consistently popping up is Batista. The Animal is a former WWE champion with ties to Reigns. Both are powerhouses with a no-nonsense attitude. He's been teasing a WWE return, and joining the Shield would be a massive, crowd-popping moment. Another contender is Kurt Angle. He famously subbed in for Reigns at TLC 2017, rocking the Shield gear. His Olympic pedigree could add an undeniable layer of grit and technical prowess to the group. Option 2, rising stars. Perhaps they are fresh faces getting the ultimate rub. Braun Breaker is an absolute beast, a second-generation star with powerhouse moves and an undeniable hunger. He'd fit the enforcer role like a glove. Then there's Carmelo Hayes, the NXT standout with unmatched swagger and incredible speed. He could be the Rollins-esque wild card, bringing an explosive flair to the trio. Option 3, wild cards. What if it's a total shock? Picture Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, returning from AEW. Yes, it's a long shot, he's locked in with AEW, but a one-off Shield reunion would utterly break the internet. Or maybe a New Japan star like Will Ospreay, adding an unpredictable, global flavor. The masks are designed to keep it mysterious, and WWE loves a curveball. Whoever they are, their precision and ruthlessness scream Shield DNA. That mystery, that suspense, it's got us all hooked. The internet exploded. This moment wasn't confined to the ring, it utterly dominated the internet. X, formerly Twitter, lit up with posts like, Shield Reborn. I'm shaking, and Reigns just ended Rollins and Heyman. Who's next? Reddit threads dissected every single frame, with fans wildly guessing Batista, Breaker, and even Moxley. One user perfectly captured the sentiment, this is the reset WWE needed. The Shield's back and it's war. The hype is undeniable, with views on WWE's official clip hitting millions overnight. Wrestling Warriors, what a ride! Roman Reigns returning with a Reborn Shield to demolish Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman is an absolute game-changer. The mystery of the new members, the simmering revenge storyline, this is must-see TV. What's next for this new era of dominance? A full-blown faction war? Immediate title chases? Stay locked into Wrestling Juice for all the updates. Like, subscribe, hit that bell, and most importantly, comment your theories below. Who do you think is under those masks? We're just getting started. Last night, the entire foundation of WWE Monday Night Raw was shattered in a moment that will be etched into wrestling history forever. There were no warnings. No cryptic vignettes. No musical cues. Just darkness. And then, chaos. A deafening roar erupted from the crowd as three silhouettes emerged through the smoke. One of them was unmistakable, Roman Reigns. The tribal chief. The head of the table. The man we hadn't seen in months. But the two others? Hooded. Silent. Dangerous. They moved like ghosts but struck like wolves. In seconds, Seth Rollins, the world heavyweight champion and once Reigns' brother-in-arms, was left crumpled in the center of the ring, broken by a triple powerbomb that sent shockwaves through the entire arena. Beside him, Paul Heyman was visibly trembling, his usually smug face twisted in panic, trying and failing to understand what he was witnessing. And just like that, the Shield was reborn. But it's not the Shield we remember. This is something darker. More calculated. And undeniably more dangerous. For anyone who's followed WWE in the past decade, the Shield wasn't just another faction. They were a seismic shift. Three men who redefined dominance, loyalty, and betrayal. Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose. A brotherhood forged in chaos. But all that ended a long time ago. Or so we thought. What happened last night wasn't just a throwback or a gimmick revival. It was a statement. A hostile takeover. Roman Reigns returned not as a nostalgia act, but as a predator. And he didn't come alone. The shock of seeing him, not on SmackDown, not at a premium live event, but on Raw, was enough to make headlines. But the moment he locked eyes with Seth Rollins and gave the signal, it became clear, this wasn't just an ambush. This was a declaration of war. Let's talk about the atmosphere, because this wasn't your typical Raw crowd. This wasn't a match. This was a moment. Seconds before the lights cut out, Seth Rollins was in the middle of a championship promo. Defiant, fired up, and at the top of his game. He'd just retained his title at Clash at the Castle, standing tall against Finn Balor in what many were calling a career-defining win. And then the lights dropped. It wasn't a flicker. It was full blackout. WWE production didn't tease it with glitches or fake-outs. It just happened. Pure shock value. People in the crowd turned on their phones, searching for something, anything, to explain what was going on. And then the Jumbotron lit up. Three figures. Marching through the crowd. One in front. Two behind. Roman. Hooded allies. All in black. The reaction was instant. First disbelief. Then pure, guttural noise. People screamed. Others stood frozen. You could hear gasps rippling across sections like falling dominoes. The noise wasn't cheers or boos, it was chaos. Commentators struggled to find words. That's Roman Reigns. But who the hell is with him? This can't be happening. The camera cut to Paul Heyman, standing at ringside in a navy suit. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like he was watching a ghost. What made this moment so gripping wasn't pyro or loud entrances. It was silence. Controlled, deliberate silence. Reigns didn't speak. His new partners didn't move unless he moved. No pyro. No entrance theme. Just boots hitting the floor, echoing through the arena like war drums. They surrounded the ring. An eerie echo of how the Shield used to corner their prey. Seth's face shifted from confusion to recognition to something close to dread. Reigns slid into the ring first. Then the others. The crowd held its breath. And then... boom. Rollins charged, but it was too late. The two unknown men struck with military precision. One hit a spinning back elbow. The other lifted Seth into position. And Roman Reigns, the man who used to be Seth's brother, completed the triple powerbomb with lethal precision. It wasn't just an attack. It was a public execution. Why now? Why Raw? That's the question burning across every fan forum, podcast, and group chat right now. Why did Roman Reigns return here, on Raw, Seth Rollins' territory? Why didn't he come back to SmackDown to reclaim his throne or continue the Bloodline saga? Why show up without warning, with two unannounced allies, and attack his former Shield brother in the most symbolic way possible? Some fans think it's revenge. Others believe Roman is building a new empire, one that spans both brands and wipes clean the legacy of the Bloodline and the Shield alike. But here's the truth, no one knows yet. And that uncertainty is what makes this moment so powerful. Let's be clear, this wasn't a feel-good moment. There were no fist bumps. No smirks. No callbacks to their old catchphrases. This wasn't Roman playing at a reunion. It was Roman saying, "This is mine now. All of it." And the message was clear, if you stand in my way, I'll destroy you, even if we once bled together. That's what makes this moment feel monumental. It's not just a twist. It's not just a return. It's a reset. And now, the stage is set. Roman Reigns is back. The Shield, or something that looks like the Shield, is reborn. Seth Rollins is broken. Paul Heyman is shaken. And nobody knows who's next. But the real questions begin now. Who are these hooded men? Is this about gold, revenge, or control? Is Roman working alone, or with a darker purpose? And where does the rest of WWE fit into this power shift? Stay with us. Because this story? It's just getting started. The WWE Universe is no stranger to surprises. Returns, betrayals, cash-ins, shocking heel turns, these are part of the DNA of pro wrestling. But Roman Reigns' return on Raw didn't just surprise fans. It left them stunned, speechless, and scrambling for answers. This wasn't just a return. This was a strategic strike, calculated down to the last step. And the more you look at it, the more you realize, it was inevitable. Roman Reigns has always played the long game. Since becoming the tribal chief, he's redefined what dominance looks like in WWE. Unpinned for over 3 years. Headlining WrestleMania after WrestleMania. Leading the most compelling faction of the modern era in the Bloodline. And then, just like that, he disappeared. After his loss at WrestleMania XL, where Cody Rhodes finally finished his story and took the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, Roman Reigns stepped away from the spotlight. No press conferences. No promos. No acknowledge me. Silence. Weeks turned into months. Rumors swirled. Some claimed he was injured. Others said he was negotiating a reduced schedule. A few thought he might never return. The company seemed to shift without him. New stars rose. Seth Rollins became a fighting champion. The Bloodline splintered and reformed in his absence. Solo Sikoa assumed leadership on SmackDown. And Roman Reigns? Ghosted. But anyone who understood how Roman operates knew better. He doesn't fade. He recalibrates. And that's exactly what he did. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment comeback. It wasn't a nostalgic surprise. This was a tactical re-entry. One that turned the spotlight back to him instantly. One that sent a message not just to Seth Rollins, but to everyone in WWE, Roman Reigns doesn't chase relevance. He defines it. The choice to strike on Raw was deliberate. Seth Rollins was at the top of the mountain. He was on home turf. He had just defended his World Heavyweight title, standing tall as the face of the brand. Roman could have picked any time to show up. But he chose to humiliate Seth when his guard was down. He chose to send a message on enemy ground. And more importantly, he didn't come alone. The WWE Universe expected Roman Reigns to come back with the bloodline, or maybe alone to stake a claim. Instead, he re-emerged with two silent, hooded figures. No names. No build-up. No introductions. Just destruction. That's not random. That's strategy. The attack was eerily familiar. The way they surrounded the ring. The sudden, explosive triple powerbomb. The slow, methodical dismantling of Seth Rollins. It mirrored the debut of the original Shield back in 2012. Only this time, it wasn't about justice. It was about vengeance. Control. Possibly even revenge. Roman Reigns didn't just return to reclaim his spot. He returned to rewrite the entire narrative. But why now? The timing couldn't be more symbolic. Raw has been gaining momentum. New faces have risen. The Judgment Day has dominated the scene. Cody Rhodes holds the biggest title in the company. And Seth Rollins? He's become the workhorse champion Roman never wanted to be. That shift in power dynamics matters. Roman ruled through fear, alliances, and precision. Seth built his title reign on grit, endurance, and showmanship. The contrast is stark. And it may be exactly why Roman targeted him first. Taking down Seth is more than a personal act. It's a public challenge to the values of Raw itself. By destroying Rollins, Roman isn't just attacking an old friend turned rival. He's symbolically erasing a version of WWE that grew in his absence. Now let's talk about symbolism. Every aspect of Roman's return was laced with meaning. The all-black gear. The silence. The decision to not speak a single word. These are not empty choices. They're power moves. Roman Reigns has always been measured, but this version of him is more dangerous than ever. He's a commander returning from exile. And his new soldiers? Their identities are still a mystery, but their purpose is crystal clear: dominate without question. Fans have speculated wildly about who they are. NXT call-ups? Repackaged veterans? Perhaps new talent imported from outside the company entirely? Whoever they are, Roman trusts them. That alone should terrify everyone in WWE. Because if Roman Reigns is forming a new unit under his leadership, something molded in the image of the Shield but twisted to serve his command, then this isn't just a comeback. It's a reinvention. It's the start of a new era. And that's the part that should scare everyone: Roman Reigns doesn't just return. He resets the game. There was a moment, right after the attack, when Roman stood alone in the ring. The camera panned across the wreckage, Seth laid out, the crowd in shock, Paul Heyman gripping the barricade in disbelief. And Roman just stood there. No words. No gesture. No explanation. Then he turned and walked away, his two unknown partners trailing behind him like shadows. No music. No lights. Just silence. That silence was deafening. Because in WWE, silence after destruction means one thing: this isn't over. It's just beginning. And if history is any guide, Roman Reigns doesn't start wars he doesn't intend to win. So, what now? Seth Rollins will recover. He always does. But his pride took a hit. His credibility was wounded. And worst of all, he was made an example. Roman didn't want a title. He didn't want a match. He wanted to send a message. And he did. Paul Heyman will scramble. He always does. But even he didn't see this coming. The man who once claimed to know Roman Reigns better than anyone was left in stunned silence. That should tell you everything. And the rest of WWE? They're watching. Every single superstar in the back, from Cody Rhodes to Kevin Owens to Sami Zayn, they all felt that tremor. Because when Roman Reigns returns, titles don't matter. Brand lines blur. Loyalty becomes fluid. He is the gravity that bends everything around him. The tribal chief is back. Not to reclaim what he lost, but to take what no one thought he even wanted. Control. Control of Raw. Control of the conversation. Control of the future. Because when Roman Reigns moves, the entire WWE shifts with him. And this time, he's not just moving. He's marching, with new soldiers, new purpose, and a vengeance that's been simmering for months. You thought you knew Roman Reigns. You thought he was gone. You were wrong. This wasn't a return. It was a reckoning. It happened in seconds, but the impact will echo for years. Seth Rollins stood in the center of the ring, holding the microphone like it was a sword. Fresh off another title defense, the crowd was singing his theme, basking in the moment. He had earned it. For over a year, he carried the weight of being a fighting champion while Roman Reigns held the undisputed title hostage. Rollins showed up every week. Took on challengers. Reinvented himself again. He was, in many ways, the heart of Monday Night Raw. And that's exactly why he was chosen. The attack didn't start with music or a backstage segment. There were no warnings. Just a complete blackout. The lights died in one breath. The crowd hushed in the next. Then came the chaos. A single spotlight flickered to life on the upper deck. 3 figures emerged. Marching in a triangle formation through the sea of people. Black combat boots. Tactical gear. Hoods drawn low. The arena lost its mind. At the center of the triangle was a man who needed no introduction, Roman Reigns. His body language was unmistakable. Calm. Commanding. He walked like a man who had nothing to prove, but everything to reclaim. On either side of him were 2 figures equally dressed in black, their faces hidden, their movements sharp and synchronized. Whoever they were, they moved like they'd trained for this moment. There were no jitters. No hesitation. Just precision. Rollins froze. The crowd roared. The commentators went silent for 2 full seconds before chaos hit their booth too. That's Roman Reigns. Oh my God, it's Roman Reigns. Who's with him? Who are they? The 3 men descended the stairs with purpose. No theatrics. Just the sound of boots on steel. They jumped the barricade and circled the ring like vultures. Rollins backed up instinctively, eyes darting between the 3 invaders. And that's when it hit everyone, this wasn't an entrance. This was an ambush. A siege. Roman Reigns gave no signal, at least not one anyone could see. But the 2 hooded men moved instantly. One slipped into the ring from the left, the other from the right. Rollins turned to strike first, a desperation move born out of instinct, but it didn't matter. He was overwhelmed. The first man hit a running knee to the ribs. The second followed with a brutal clothesline that flipped Rollins midair. The crowd gasped. The camera shook. Then Roman entered. He walked into the ring like a general stepping into a conquered city. Slow. Calm. Deadly. Rollins, coughing and trying to crawl to his feet, looked up just in time to see the shadow of Reigns towering over him. And that's when the past came back like a freight train. The last time these 2 stood across from each other in a moment like this, Seth Rollins was the traitor. He was the one with the chair. The one who dismantled the Shield. The one who broke the Brotherhood for personal gain. Now, the roles were reversed. Roman Reigns reached down, pulled Seth up by his hair, and said something the cameras didn't catch. The crowd near the ring swore it was just 3 words, "This is justice." Then came the triple powerbomb. Roman lifted. The other two men assisted. And they dropped Seth Rollins in the center of the ring with the same devastating move that once tore through WWE. The same maneuver they used to destroy legends. The same maneuver that used to represent unity. Now, it symbolized retribution. Rollins bounced off the mat and lay still. The camera cut to Paul Heyman. If anyone thought Heyman was in on this, his face told a different story. The wise man looked completely unprepared. His jaw was slack. His eyes wide. His body hunched against the commentary table like the breath had been ripped from his lungs. He wasn't watching a return. He was watching an uprising. Roman Reigns didn't acknowledge him. Didn't glance his way. He stood over Seth Rollins' fallen body like a warlord staking his claim. Then one of the hooded men pulled out a steel chair. The crowd's chant grew louder, half excitement, half horror. Roman took the chair. Raised it high. And slammed it across Seth's back. Once. Twice. A third time. Each shot echoed. Each one drew gasps. This wasn't just an attack. It was an execution. Roman had no interest in subtlety. This was a message, delivered with violence. Then he dropped the chair beside Seth and stepped back. The silence returned. It's rare for a live crowd to be silent during a beatdown, but this wasn't just another spot. It felt like something bigger. Heavier. Like a line had been crossed. People were trying to understand the implications even as they watched it unfold. This wasn't a feud. It was a reset. Then, without a word, the three men exited the ring the same way they came in, methodically, silently, powerfully. The camera lingered on Seth, barely moving. Then cut again to Heyman, who still hadn't moved an inch. And then Raw faded to black. No commentary. No recap. Just silence. That silence did more to build tension than any promo could. It let the audience sit in the gravity of what just happened. Roman Reigns wasn't here to reclaim a throne. He was here to burn the kingdom. Backstage sources later reported that the segment was kept secret from almost everyone. Only a handful of production staff and the principal talent involved knew it was happening. That level of secrecy is rare in modern WWE, where spoilers often leak hours or days before broadcast. But this was airtight. The decision to keep it under wraps paid off. Social media exploded within minutes. Fans tagged each other in disbelief. Wrestling journalists rushed to verify details. Reddit threads reached hundreds of comments in seconds. Theories began flying. Who are the hooded men? Why attack Seth? What's Roman's endgame? WWE posted the clip to YouTube just an hour later. It passed 1 million views in under 3 hours. It wasn't just an angle. It was a cultural moment. Because in wrestling, there are returns, and then there are declarations. This was the latter. Roman Reigns walked into Raw like a man who never left. But what he did there changed everything. The visual of Seth Rollins, broken and alone in the ring, is going to be replayed for years. Not because it was brutal, but because it was symbolic. The Shield is back. But it's different now. And the WWE Universe isn't ready for what's coming. The moment Roman Reigns stepped out from the shadows with 2 hooded allies, the wrestling world went into detective mode. Fans paused footage, zoomed in on frame-by-frame screenshots, dissected entrance paths, movement styles, body language, gear. Who were these 2 men? Why were their faces hidden? Why didn't they speak? And most importantly, how did Roman Reigns, one of the most controlling figures in WWE history, place his trust in them? Because make no mistake, Roman trusts them. That much was clear. These weren't bodyguards. They weren't henchmen. These men moved with him, not behind him. Their coordination was tight. Their strikes were clean. Their focus was singular. This wasn't chaos, they moved with the discipline of soldiers. And that's where the mystery deepens. In wrestling, surprise allies usually get unveiled within a week. Teasers, reveals, slow burns, they build anticipation but eventually pull the curtain back. Not here. Not this time. Roman Reigns returned not with former Bloodline members, not with known stars, but with two unknowns. Their identities weren't hinted at during commentary. The broadcast team didn't offer any names or speculation. That silence? Intentional. WWE wants this to simmer. But fans don't wait. Within hours, speculation exploded online. 3 names trended immediately on Twitter and Reddit: Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker, and Solo Sikoa. But here's the thing, Solo was already tied up on SmackDown. And these two men didn't fit Breaker's build or Fatu's hair and tattoos. These weren't Bloodline reinforcements. This was something new. The wrestling community started digging deeper. Was it an NXT call-up? Could it be Shawn Spears and Joe Gacy, rebranded for the main roster? Was WWE introducing outsiders? The first clue came not from who these men were, but how they moved. One of them, the one who delivered a spinning back elbow to Seth Rollins during the attack, was fast. Not just athletic, but precise. His posture suggested a background in MMA or catch wrestling. He didn't perform for the crowd. He executed. The other was larger. He was the one who lifted Rollins for the powerbomb. His grip was tight. His feet were perfectly placed. He wasn't raw. He was trained. Together, they moved in sync. Not like two singles guys slapped together. But like a unit. A team. Rehearsed. Which raises the question, how long have they been with Roman? This wasn't thrown together last week. This was months in the making. It suggests one of two possibilities. Either these are long-groomed NXT talents being protected with a massive debut, or they're hand-picked outsiders brought in specifically to fill a role. Let's explore both. If they're from NXT, who makes the most sense? Some fans point to Oba Femi, the current North American champion. He's explosive, young, and WWE is clearly invested. But Femi's size doesn't match the attackers. Neither man was as tall or as imposing. That rules him out. Others suggest former amateur wrestling standout Tavian Heights. He has the grappling background, the intensity, and the clean-cut technique. But Heights isn't a known character yet. Would WWE risk this moment on two total unknowns? That's where the outside theory picks up steam. Roman Reigns has long styled himself as more than a wrestler. He's an institution. A dynasty. If he were truly rebuilding, why not recruit from outside the system? What if these aren't NXT call-ups? What if these men have been training with Roman off-camera, outside WWE Performance Center walls? We know Roman is connected with high-level trainers. We know WWE has pulled talent from other combat sports before. Think of Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, Logan Paul. All dropped in with a purpose. So, imagine this, Roman Reigns, while off television, scouts 2 elite fighters. Trains them privately. Mentors them. Shapes them in his image. And then unleashes them without warning. That's not a storyline. That's a manifesto. The implications are massive. Because if Roman hand-selected 2 enforcers trained in secret, they're not just muscle. They're disciples. Devoted. Obedient. And most terrifying of all, loyal. Loyalty has always been Roman's currency. He exiled his own cousins when they fell out of line. He manipulated Jey Uso into servitude. He ruled the bloodline with fear and charisma. But these two men? They didn't hesitate. They didn't look to him for approval. They knew what to do. And that makes them more dangerous than Solo Sikoa ever was. There's another possibility, that WWE is hiding their identities because the reveal itself is part of a long-form storyline. If that's true, the company is building toward one of two outcomes: either these men unmask and shock the world with who they really are, perhaps returning stars under new personas, or they remain anonymous, faceless symbols of Roman's power. Think about that for a second. What if WWE never gives them names? What if they exist purely to extend Roman's influence? They could function like the Foot Clan to Shredder. Silent, loyal, brutal. Not individuals, but extensions of the tribal chief's will. This would be a bold creative direction. WWE has leaned into cinematic storytelling more and more in recent years. From The Fiend to the Bloodline saga, they've proven that fans will follow layered, psychological arcs if they're done right. Keeping the hooded man anonymous adds fear. It removes predictability. It turns every appearance into an event. But make no mistake, eventually, the masks will come off. And when they do, the impact needs to match the build-up. Because right now, these two men have delivered destruction. But when they speak, or when Roman finally introduces them, it has to feel nuclear. Let's not forget what they did. They dismantled a world champion. They silenced a locker room. They bent Paul Heyman to silence. You don't get away with that in WWE without serious backup. That means whoever they are, they're not just rookies with good timing. They're part of a larger plan. And Roman Reigns is always 10 moves ahead. One fan theory gaining traction? That these men are part of Roman's second family. Not just brothers in arms, but literal cousins, trained by the Anoa'i dynasty, kept away from public view until the time was right. If that's true, this isn't just a new Shield. It's the Bloodline Reborn. A darker version. No elders. No Sami Zayn to pull at the heartstrings. No inner conflict. Just war. And that raises the final, chilling thought: what if these men don't just support Roman, they succeed him? Because Reigns knows he can't reign forever. He's smart enough to prepare his legacy. And if he's building something now, it may not just be for dominance today, it may be to carry on his influence tomorrow. That's the genius of Roman Reigns. And that's what makes these two hooded figures the most dangerous unknowns in WWE right now. No one in WWE is more calculated than Paul Heyman. He's a man who doesn't just predict power shifts, he orchestrates them. He helped Brock Lesnar end the streak. He guided Roman Reigns into one of the most dominant title reigns in company history. He survives because he aligns himself with the Alpha. Always. And yet, on the night Roman Reigns returned, Paul Heyman looked like a man completely out of the loop. And that may be the biggest shock of all. The cameras caught it in real time. As the crowd erupted at the sight of Roman Reigns and his mysterious allies descending from the stands, Heyman didn't move. His mouth dropped open. His hands slowly lowered from the commentary desk. His eyes locked onto Roman's with something we've never seen from Paul Heyman before: not admiration. Not respect. Not even fear. Confusion. Genuine, rattled, complete confusion. This wasn't part of the plan. And that's the first time since aligning with Roman Reigns in 2020 that Paul Heyman hasn't been the smartest man in the room. Because if anyone was expected to be in on Roman's return, it was him. The wise man. The architect behind the Bloodline's rise. The man who once whispered strategy into the tribal chief's ear week after week. But on this night, Heyman wasn't at Roman's side. He wasn't even acknowledged. And in a business where silence is the loudest message, Roman Reigns said everything by saying nothing. The implications are staggering. If Paul Heyman didn't know about Roman's return, then Roman doesn't need him anymore. That should terrify everyone, including Heyman himself. Let's backtrack. Over the past 3 years, Paul Heyman has become the defining mouthpiece of WWE's most powerful faction. His presence legitimized Roman's heel turn. His promos made the tribal chief feel like a warlord. And he controlled the chessboard, often moving the pieces before anyone else even realized there was a game being played. But with the bloodline fractured, and with Solo Sikoa stepping into a leadership role on SmackDown, Heyman found himself in an unfamiliar position, sidelined. He tried to cling to control. Tried to advise Solo. Tried to keep the bloodline intact. But something shifted. Slowly, quietly, inevitably. The story outgrew him. Then came Raw. And in one moment, we saw the full collapse of Paul Heyman's influence. Because as Roman stood in the ring, flanked by two loyal enforcers, dismantling the former Shield brother he once swore loyalty to, Heyman watched, not from the corner, not as an advisor, but as a bystander. That was no accident. Roman Reigns didn't even glance at him. Not once. And if you know Roman's character, you know what that means. He's done with Heyman. The man who built the empire has been removed from the inner circle. And that changes everything. Backstage sources say Heyman was deliberately kept away from rehearsals for the segment. Producers instructed announcers to react as if Heyman was caught off guard. That wasn't just for drama. That was the story. Paul Heyman has lost control. In wrestling, betrayal is part of the game. But this isn't a sudden heel turn or a shocking double cross. This is something more tragic. This is a man watching the world he helped build move on without him. And you could see the realization in his eyes. There was a specific moment, right after Roman hit Seth Rollins with the final chair shot, where the camera zoomed in on Heyman's face. His lips were pressed together. His head dropped slightly. And for just a second, he looked small. Not the mastermind. Not the manipulator. Just a man who no longer knows where he belongs. The paranoia is coming. Paul Heyman's entire survival strategy in WWE has been built around relevance. If he isn't aligned with the power, he's vulnerable. And for the first time in years, he's unaligned. And that's dangerous. Heyman thrives when he has purpose. When he has a mission. When he knows the plan. But now? He's unmoored. And that makes him unpredictable. Does he try to win Roman back? Does he try to insert himself into this new group? Or does he jump ship entirely? Imagine Paul Heyman showing up on Raw next week, trying to talk his way into a meeting with Roman, only to be ignored again. Or worse, targeted. Because if Roman sees Heyman as a liability, the man may not walk away with a simple snub. This is a new Roman Reigns. Colder. More ruthless. He didn't speak a word. He didn't give a smirk. He didn't even acknowledge the man who once called him the reigning defending undisputed champion of the world. That's more brutal than any spear. And the betrayal cuts deeper because it's not angry. It's surgical. Roman didn't exile Heyman in a dramatic promo. He didn't humiliate him. He simply replaced him. That's power. And Heyman knows it. Which means two things are coming. First, a desperate scramble for relevance. Heyman may align with someone else. Someone Roman hates. Maybe even Seth Rollins. Maybe even Cody Rhodes. That would be the ultimate act of spite, helping Roman's enemies reclaim power. Second, we'll see the re-emergence of paranoid Heyman. The Heyman who stutters. Who sweats. Who schemes. The version of Heyman who doesn't control the story, but fears where it's heading. That version is dangerous. That version has nothing to lose. And that makes him a wild card. Because Paul Heyman may be out of the inner circle, but he's not out of the game. Not yet. And if history tells us anything, it's that you should never count out the man who survived every era, every champion, every faction. He didn't see this betrayal coming. But he'll respond. The only question is, how? Seth Rollins is no stranger to betrayal. He was the one who swung the first chair. The one who ended the original Shield. The one who turned on Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose in 2014 to chase ambition, legacy, gold. That moment defined him. It followed him for years. The crowd never forgot. Neither did his brothers. But on this night, the roles reversed. The visionary, the champion, the so-called architect of his own destiny, was blindsided, beaten, humiliated. And now, the wrestling world has to ask a new question. Can Seth Rollins come back from this? What happened to Rollins on Raw wasn't just a physical assault. It was an emotional reckoning. It was personal, violent, symbolic. It wasn't Roman Reigns reminding Seth of the past, it was Roman rewriting it. Let's rewind the clock. Just 24 hours earlier, Seth Rollins stood tall at Clash at the Castle, victorious in a grueling match against Finn Balor. He walked out battered but beaming, still holding the World Heavyweight Championship, still wearing that knowing smirk that said, "This is my time." He had survived Judgment Day. Survived injury. Survived the pressure of being Raw's cornerstone while Roman Reigns vanished from the spotlight. In many ways, Seth had become the opposite of Roman. He wasn't the king of a crumbling empire. He was a workhorse. A builder. A man who took beatings weekly and kept coming back for more. The crowd loved him for it. Sang for him. Danced to his theme. Believed in him. And that's what made the attack hurt more than anything. Roman didn't just hurt Seth Rollins physically. He dismantled everything Seth had built. The Shield entrance. The silent approach. The triple powerbomb. Roman weaponized their past. Seth had just declared Raw was the house he built. And Roman came to burn it down. The look on Seth's face the moment Roman entered the ring said it all. It wasn't shock. It was realization. Like a man who knew this day would come but hoped it never would. Roman didn't come for gold. He came for a legacy. And Seth, standing alone, realized he was the target. He fought. Of course he did. He's Seth Rollins. He doesn't fold. But it didn't matter. Two unknown men moved with tactical efficiency. Seth tried to counter. Landed a few shots. Even broke out of the first double-team attempt. But then Roman entered. He didn't rush. He didn't speak. He just grabbed Seth, looked into his eyes, and delivered the line we're all going to remember, "This is justice." That's when they lifted him. That's when the world stopped. The triple powerbomb wasn't just nostalgic, it was surgical. Deliberate. A mirror of the one Seth delivered to Roman years ago when he swung the chair. This time, Seth was on the receiving end of the fall. When he hit the mat, you could feel it. The crowd gasped. And then went quiet. It wasn't just the sound of bodies hitting canvas, it was the sound of history turning on its axis. This wasn't Roman reclaiming dominance. This was him rewriting the Shield's legacy. And Seth? He was the first casualty. Let's be clear, Rollins isn't weak. Far from it. But this was the first time in years where he looked truly vulnerable. Not from exhaustion. Not from injury. But from betrayal. Psychological damage. His face said it. Not pain, regret. Backstage, WWE medical staff rushed to check on him. Reports say he refused a stretcher. Walked out on his own. Limping. Silent. Eyes straight ahead. He didn't speak to anyone. And that silence? It was louder than any promo. Because Seth Rollins, for all his swagger, for all his charisma, for all his flair, is human. And this broke something. The next time he picks up a mic, the words will matter. Because they won't be for the crowd. They'll be for Roman. For the betrayal. For the history they share. And maybe, for the guilt that's never quite gone away. Because Seth Rollins may have created this version of Roman Reigns without even realizing it. He broke the Shield. Roman rebuilt it. Different faces. Same tactics. New war. And now Seth Rollins is on the outside. For the first time in nearly a decade, he's alone. There's no Dean Ambrose. No bloodline. No Cody Rhodes rushing in for backup. No Judgment Day to align with. Just Seth. With a bruised body, a bruised ego, and a future full of uncertainty. That makes him dangerous. Because Rollins thrives when backed into a corner. This isn't just a revenge story. It's personal. If WWE books this correctly, what we're about to see is the second chapter in the Shield saga. The past was about brotherhood. The present is about retribution. And the future? It's war. Seth Rollins will return. We know this. But when he does, the laughing, crowd-pleasing champion will be gone. What we'll see instead is the tactician. The strategist. The man who knows how to destroy from within. Because if Roman wants a war, he picked the wrong man to lead breathing. You heard the boots. That heavy, unmistakable stomp of combat boots hitting steel steps. It sent a chill through the arena, triggering memories from over a decade ago. Not just nostalgia, visceral memory. Roman Reigns walking down the stairs flanked by two soldiers in black wasn't just a dramatic entrance. It was a resurrection. But this wasn't a Shield reunion. It was a rebirth. And the message was clear, the Shield is back. But not the one you remember. Let's talk visuals. The entrance through the crowd. The flak vests. The slow, synchronized descent. It mirrored the Shield's original debut to eerie precision. Back in 2012, when Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose first stormed Survivor Series, it was raw. Punk. Disruptive. It felt like chaos was being weaponized. But this? This was different. Roman's expression was calm, almost surgical. There was no urgency, no wild energy. This was controlled violence. This was order, not chaos. The pace was slower. The formation tighter. It didn't feel like a gang ambush, it felt like a military operation. A raid. The echo of the Shield is unmistakable. But it's been stripped of sentiment. Refined into something colder. And that's what makes it terrifying. Because the Shield used to stand for justice. They targeted the corrupt. The entitled. They were rebels with a code. Whether you loved them or hated them, you understood their mission. They operated like judges, jury, and executioners, against injustice, not for personal gain. Roman's new faction isn't about justice. It's about dominance. This version of the Shield isn't anti-authority. It is authority. Let's look at the gear. It wasn't exactly the same as before, but the DNA was there. Tactical vests. Black gloves. Combat pants. No insignias. Just shadows in motion. The original Shield wore their gear like armor. These new recruits wear it like a uniform. They don't just echo the look, they advance it. It's evolution. And like any evolution, it's adapted to survive and conquer. There was no signature Shield pose. No fist bump. That gesture was sacred in the old trio, symbolizing unity, trust, brotherhood. Roman omitted it for a reason. Because this isn't about brotherhood anymore. This is about order, hierarchy, structure. There's no circle here. There's a pyramid. Roman sits at the top. This faction doesn't feel like equals coming together. It feels like a leader building a machine. And yet, it works. Because Roman understands something few others do in wrestling, symbols matter. Fans don't just react to stories. They react to iconography. And the Shield is one of the most iconic images of the last 2 decades. So Roman takes that symbol, corrupts it, and reintroduces it under his command. And the crowd eats it up. They're not cheering for nostalgia. They're reacting to power. To dominance. To the sheer audacity of Roman hijacking a sacred legacy and making it his again. Let's be clear, this wasn't a tribute. This was theft. Roman stole the Shield from Seth Rollins, live, in front of millions, and rebranded it as his own. And that rebranding doesn't just affect Seth. It sends ripples across WWE. The Shield meant something. To fans. To history. To the wrestlers inside it. It was born in chaos, died in betrayal, and lived on in legacy. Roman just ripped out its spine and replaced it with steel. And now, he's weaponizing that legacy. Fans are already calling this the Black Shield. Online forums are speculating names. The Bastion. The Dynasty. The Triad. But the truth is, this doesn't need a new name. Because Roman doesn't care about naming it. He cares about owning it. He's not asking for your approval. He's telling you what this is. And daring you to stop it. In many ways, this version of the Shield is the final evolution of Roman's journey. From silent muscle in the original trio. To betrayed brother. To solo conqueror. To tribal chief. To now, commander of a new order. And the scariest part? This group hasn't even spoken yet. No names. No promos. No mission statement. Just destruction. That silence is powerful. It's a blank canvas, letting fans fill in the fear. It makes everything they do feel deliberate. When a faction comes in without a gimmick, without jokes, without theatrics, just movement and violence, it shakes you. It makes you believe they're here to conquer, not to entertain. It's not just a new faction. It's a new philosophy. And it's working. Because already, this version of the Shield has done what most stables take months to achieve, they've shifted the balance of power. Rollins is out. Heyman is isolated. And Roman? Roman's standing on the ruins of his past with two new soldiers at his side, daring the world to challenge him. This isn't nostalgia. It's war.